praying, God, I don't want to be with this person no more.
Yeah.
And that's the very one, maybe God, hopefully God put him there.
Yeah.
And that's a very helpmate, that's a very, partner that God placed, and it seems like he brings division, right?
Yeah.
He brings, a strife there
Yeah.
to make a family break apart, to make mothers and fathers and their children not talk for years,
Yeah. Yep.
because I'm right and you're wrong,
Yeah.
And I was thinking about it, I heard a pastor the other day named Tim Story. He was talking about, he was at a church, he was ministering at a church, and he was saying this, and it was like he was preaching at our church, and he said, spiritual warfare has come against this ministry. He goes, man, I'm telling you, it's so heavy. He said, it's so hard. It hits so hard, it's almost like you ever see these guys, like in the UFC, they get hit so hard, boom, they're out. You know what I mean? They're laying there. They can't even get up. They're like what's his name last night? That fought Alvarez. He couldn't even get up. He fell over, and and it's like he said, the enemy has hit you so hard that it's like you can't even stand.
Yeah. Yep, that's right.
And he's saying this to this church, but he's talking, but God's going to turn it around.
That's right.
Because
Amen.
this is not our church, this is God's church.
That's right, amen.
You got to understand that.
Amen.
You with me?
Amen.
Don't. You got to understand that this is God's church.
That's right, amen.
And for whatever reason, I have no idea why God put me and my wife here. But
Amen.
He did.
Amen.
You got to be careful that that you're not coming against God's authority.
Yeah, that's
Because
right.
I'm not telling you. You know what I mean? It's God that tells you. When you come against Moses, you don't come against him, you come against me.
Yep, that's
You
right.
with me? And,
right.
and you got to be careful, you know what I mean, that you understand and you recognize. Because some people come in, you're new, you don't know that, you know what I mean? You treat it like the workplace, like gossip, and you can come against your boss and talk against them. And even in that realm of authority, you better be careful what you're doing.
Right.
You with me? Not that anything, the only thing bad about it is you'll end up on the unemployment line.
Yep.
You with me?
Right.
And be there wondering how you're going to pay your mortgage and stuff because you have no job.
Yep.
You with me? But when it comes to the things of God, see, God has placed Pastor here for a purpose.
That's
Me
right.
and my wife here for a reason.
That's right.
You with me? And when you come here, you're not coming here to teach us. You're coming
Right.
here so that we can teach you.
That's right.
Because there's things in your life that you don't understand and you don't know, and you're reasoning up here and you're trying to figure it out up here.
Yeah.
You're making some wrong choices.
Yep,
You with me?
that's right.
Because you're reasoning and you're thinking, well, this is the way I always do. I do this at work and just the way I am and this and that. Well, listen, you're brought here to change. You're not here to stay the same way that you are.
That's right.
You're brought here to change, and we're to help you do that because we've been doing this for many, many years. And we've had experience through some of the greatest pastors that this nation's ever seen, the world's ever seen. And we've had training and instruction under that. And so we kind of know a little bit about what we're doing in the church.
That's right, amen.
You know what I mean? And you know what I mean? But the thing is that, I was thinking about it and I was like, even with our ushers, I was looking at the usher and and Andrea's running around like a chicken with no head. And I'm like, she does an excellent job. She really does a great job. And that's just one of her hats.
Yeah, that's right.
She has like 7. Have you ever seen somebody put a hat on top of 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 a hat and looks kind of silly after a while and it won't stay on?
Yeah.
And some people have several hats and some of you have laid down. Some of you you with me? And it's because of spirit of bitterness.
Yeah.
It's because you feel like you've been treated unfairly. But see, the thing is that we don't go according to our reasoning.
That's right.
Hebrews says, be careful lest the spirit of bitterness take root in your heart. You with me? And this happens in every church. This happens in every church. Big churches, small churches, medium-sized churches.
Yeah.
But sometimes in churches, and I was thinking the reason I said Andrea is because, I look around and see several men that have been in our church, that are in our church that were ushers. And for the reason of pastor dealing with them and saying, you know what, bro, you need to check your heart. Because in the ministry, it all comes down to heart. It all comes down to obedience, loyalty. You with me?
Yeah.
Of course, faithfulness. You with me?
Yeah.
But it comes down to the heart. You with me? And there's several of you in this place that used to be ushers that Andrea has to take your spot now. You with me?
Yeah.
And we're supposed to have men ushers.
Yeah.
You with me? Because what can she do? You know what I mean? If somebody comes in and starts something and this and that, you just kind of sit there watching the lady fight a drum. You with me?
Yeah.
But some of you, because pastor has sat you down or corrected you and told you you're not going to deal in this ministry with that heart. You need to change, bro. You need to knock it off. You need to get it right. What happened with Judas, when Judas, I don't know how he got big-headed, and not even him, because see, there's always a Judas, but see, I understand. Remember when the woman came in and she washed Jesus' feet with her hair and her tears and all this stuff, and the disciples are sitting back already because they think there's something, I guess.
Yeah.
And they're like, if he only knew who this chick was, you know.
Yeah.
And they start talking, and they were rebuking her and all this stuff. And Jesus rebuked him and said, you know what, leave her alone. Because not only did Judas start talking, mumbling and murmuring, but there were several disciples that are, you know what I mean? Because birds of a feather flock together. You're always going to get those ones that are talking and some that are gather around them and agree with them.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just Judas. There was a few other disciples that were right there with him,
Yeah.
agreeing with him.
Yeah.
And Jesus said, you guys leave her alone. And he rebuked these men and said, this woman has done something that you guys didn't do.
Yeah.
You with me?
Yeah.
And it was that moment, the Bible says, that Judas decided, I'm going to betray this man. And he left that meeting, went directly to other people, and said to the Pharisees, Sanhedrin, he said, what will you give me to betray him into your hands? What happened there was that a spirit of offense, bitterness got a hold of Judas's heart.
Yeah.
You with me?
Yeah.
And because of that, he didn't get better, he got bitter.
Yeah.
You with me? Listen to that.
That's right.
Some of you didn't get better because pastor corrected you or even sat you down. What happened was you got bitter.
Yeah.
Because you said in your heart, he treated me unfairly. Who does he think he is?
Yeah.
You with me?
Yeah.
And you didn't understand the heart in which I was coming at you with.
Yeah.
You with me? I've been in this game a long time. And I recognize one thing, that it all comes down to your heart. See, because you can't serve and you can't help and you can't do that with a disobedient heart. You can't serve and be effective to God's church and God's people. You with me?
That's right.
With bitterness inside of you, or with a lackadaisical spirit,
Yeah.
with an indifferent spirit. I don't care. I don't know.
Yeah.
What did you do? I don't know. Did you check the heat? I don't know. I don't know. You with me? You can't do that. You can't serve, you know what I mean, in that aspect of serving with the servant's heart. You with me? And the thing is, see, God has placed the pastors there for a reason.
That's right.
And when they come to you, and when they talk to you, and when they even correct you, see, a true servant will take a correction.
Yeah.
The Psalms of the Proverbs says, I'd rather be rebuked and corrected by somebody I love than kissed on the cheek by somebody that's an enemy.
That's right.
You with me?
That's right.
So a lot of times you don't understand it because, you know what I mean, you do in the world.
Yeah.
You with me? You haven't quit your job yet. Your boss has probably told you off several times if that's you, because see, the spirit carries wherever you go.
Yeah.
The spirit of bitterness and offense and rebellion, it goes wherever you go.
Yeah.
It doesn't just stay here at church. We think,
right.
well, it's just church. And it's not. It's everywhere you go. Causing problems everywhere you go. gossip. Everywhere you go, you know, wow, you know, what did you think of the boss, what he said? I don't agree. And you know what we ought to do is we ought to go to the what do you call them, what do you call it when they gather together, the jobs, the union? And let's go raise havoc and tell them about our boss and all this different stuff, and see wherever you go, that spirit follows you.
Yeah.
You with me?
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? And you know what I mean? You think it's just here at church, it ain't.
That's
You
right.
with me? Because you go to your job, if I went to some of your jobs and I talked to some of your coworkers, you know, they would tell me too, oh man, that person's so hard to work with.
Yeah.
Oh man, they're mean, they're rude. Huh? Did they go to your church? No, they don't go to, they go to Victory Outreach. That's a joke. Amen. But the thing is, see, a spirit of bitterness, a spirit of offense, you gotta be careful of.
Yeah.
You gotta see, a true servant of God, even if they get corrected and even if they get sat down, for whatever reason, because if I have to sit you down, you know what I mean, if I have to tell you, hey bro, I'm not going to let you do this no more, you need to sit down and quit, or whatever, you know what I mean, that's pretty heavy duty.
Yeah.
You with me?
Yep.
And to you know what I mean, if I have to do that, you know what I mean, that's when you sit down and you're not supposed to get bitter, you're supposed to get better.
Yep.
You're supposed to say, well, what do I have to do, Pastor, to get back to this place? Because I want to be a servant of God.
Right.
I want to help.
Right.
Who knows if one day you're going to be a pastor of a church, guy.
Yeah.
You with me?
Yep.
And it just prolongs it for more years and more years because you're offended and you're disobedient in your heart. And instead of getting better, instead of letting God's Spirit change you and His Word change you and transform you to teach you, one of these days I'm going to have to lead. See, because that's what you guys don't understand.
Yeah.
And whatever you sow, you're going to reap it.
Yeah.
This happens with your wife. This happens with your kids.
Yep.
This happens at your job.
Yep.
Whatever you sow, you're going to reap. Whatever you do to others is going to come back to you. And
Yep.
people are going to do this to you.
Yep.
You got to understand that.
Yeah.
You with me?
Yep.
And instead of getting better, instead of saying, you know what, man, God, search my heart. Father, forgive me, Pastor, I'm sorry. What can I do to get back to this place? Because you know what, I really believe God wants me serving and helping like that. And I want to get my heart right. I don't want to be, you know what I mean, of any place in the world, not your job, but at church. God, I want to be a part. I want to help. I want to take the load off. You guys don't even understand what you've done.
Yeah.
Some of you have gotten bitter in your heart, and what you've done was the first thing you did was you stopped giving your tithes and your offerings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Some of you have even stopped helping us in the Mexican dinner.
Yeah.
You pulled your finances, and you won't even buy a pound of hamburger.
Yeah.
Come on now. Huh? If you can't make it, at least you can do is buy some food to help us.
Yeah.
But you've gotten offended, and you've pulled even that back.
Yeah.
You with me?
Yep.
Some of you have stopped doing ministries like the YouTube, like the overheads, like these things. You know what I mean? Because you got offended,
Yeah.
because you got hurt or sinned.
Yeah.
And what you don't understand is that my wife has like cat in the hat, 10 hats on. You with me?
Yeah.
And she's overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Even us, even me as your pastor. You know what I mean? And this is you know, God's showing me, God's helping me. Because this ain't my church, it's His.
That's right,
You
amen.
with me? So what I'm speaking to you now comes from the Spirit of God. Because
Amen.
my spirit would be hurt, my spirit would be overwhelmed, my spirit would be, what do we do, God? I feel like just quitting. But the Spirit of God says, son, step up. This is a learning thing. The devil has come against your church, and you need to take it back.
Amen.
Last night I watched the fight between Jose Aldo and Max Holloway. And the previews of it says, it's a song, but it said, let's go to war. And that's what the Spirit of God was telling me this morning, son, let's go to war.
Amen.
Because Ephesians 6 says that we don't wrestle against people. And this is what I'm learning. After 32 years, I'm still learning. Son, don't be bitter with these people.
Yep.
Because you're not fighting them.
That's right.
You with me?
Yep.
You're fighting an evil spirit.
That's right.
You with me?
That's right.
And it's hard to think like that because we don't see it. We just see people.
That's right. Yeah.
We see people and their choices of whatever, you know what I mean? And it's like, man, brother, it's like you said you were in the gang for 20 years. I mean, it's like, this is the way we handle stuff.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah.
We don't handle stuff, in the spirit and in prayer. We handle stuff toe to toe. Let's go to war.
Yeah.
You with me? But that's not the Spirit of God.
That's right.
And God says, son, it's not flesh and blood that you're fighting. It's an evil spirit. That's what Tim Story said. Tim Story said it's spiritual warfare.
That's right.
Look at your prayer life.
That's right.
Look how far you've come from where you used to be.
That's right.
Amen.
And tell me that the enemy hasn't attacked the church because he's attacked your prayer life.
That's right.
They don't pray like you used to pray.
That's right.
They don't even come to prayer that we have.
Yeah.
You with me? Just a handful of people don't understand there's a spiritual warfare. You know what I mean? And you know how I knew when I look at the church and even before service, no one's praying. Not one person. When I came in, I seen a couple kneeling down and I'm like, wow, that's heavy duty. But a lot of people just show up at 10, no prayer, nothing. And then you want me to give you spiritual food, but you're not ready for it. You're not prepared for it.
That's right.
You're not warmed up for it. We're barely trying to get through praise and worship. To warm you up, to get you ready, you know what I mean, to prepare you, you know what I mean. But how are you going to do that if you look at me and you're offended at me?
That's right. Yeah.
Some of you ladies, you're offended and you're bitter at Pastor Susan. A woman who would give you everything she has. Even you know what I mean? And I know we're on YouTube, but even some of my children, even my own flesh and blood, you with me?
Yeah.
Offended with my wife or offended with me,
Yeah.
And it's like, wow. And then because they open their mouth. You know?
Yeah.
You got to be careful. Those of you that are here, and even you that are my children, you got to be careful that you're not listening and giving ear to them.
That's right.
And paying attention to what they're saying.
Yeah.
Because you can get offended for somebody else and not realize that spirit is latched onto you too.
Yeah. That's right.
I was thinking about it the other day, and I said, you know what it's like? I said, and I have no idea, guys, believe me, when I tell you, I have no idea what cancer is. I have no idea how it affects your body, but I know that the Spirit of God said there's cancer in your church. There's cancer in your church. And son, what do you got to do with cancer? And I said, I don't know. What I know is that you go in with surgery sometimes and you can go in and cut it out. You with me?
Yeah.
But, you know what I mean? We don't fight like that. We don't war like that. We don't, you know what I mean? You get out of here. You know what I mean? Sometimes you wish you can. You with me? But you can't fire Christians.
Yeah.
How do you deal with cancer? How do you deal with it? Is it like radiation, chemo?
Yeah.
What is that? Prayer, son.
Yeah.
We don't wrestle against flesh and blood, the principalities and powers and rulers of the darkness of this world, this present world,
Yeah.
of spiritual wickedness in high places. You with me?
Yeah.
And you don't even understand. Some of you don't understand. So you think it's just your friends and people around you and don't realize that they're changing the way you're thinking and seeing this ministry.
Yeah. That's right.
You don't realize and understand that, you know what I mean? You're giving ear to something that's not of God. It's something that has been designed and strategically, made to come against and destroy the body of Christ here.
That's right.
Just like a cancer. You're going along, living your life fine, you're happy, you're healthy. All of a sudden, you don't feel too good. You don't know what's going on. You look, and it's just like the body of Christ. Going along, doing all right, and all of a sudden things happen. Are you with me?
Yeah.
And I'm thinking about it, and I'm like, man, you guys don't even understand.
Yeah.
2017 is not a good year for New Hope Ministries of Pueblo.
Yeah.
Hmm?
That's right.
We've lost a lot of people and a lot of things.
Yeah.
We've lost them through death.
Yeah.
We lost Sister Vicky New Year's Day, I think.
Yeah.
Sister Natalie, how long ago? In March or something? April. 2 people that were significant to this ministry. 2 people that, as far as I knew, were faithful and were tithers and givers and helpers. They're helping our Mexican dinners.
Yeah.
They do their best, they do whatever. And I remember Sister Vicky with the little she had, she'd come and give me some money.
Yeah.
You with me? You got to understand, see, the devil's strategic. You know what I mean? He comes against you. And I was thinking about it, I said, you know, it's a spirit of Jezebel.
Yeah.
Hmm?
Yep.
Jezebel always affects the marriages. She comes against the men.
Yep.
She comes against the finances.
Yep.
If you've been having financial troubles, it's not because, you know what I mean, of anything we've done. It's because of the spirit of Jezebel that has attacked your finances.
Yeah.
Hmm? But the spirits have come against our church. This witchcraft, this demonic force have come against our church and have hit us so hard, spun us around. You know what I mean? To where we're like, what in the heck happened?
Yeah.
Hmm? And he's not only, you know what I mean? People have backslid.
Yeah.
Huh? People that were grounded, people that were founded, just because of an offense, because of a, you with me? Bitter. And you know what I mean? You got to understand, you're not just bitter at me, you're bitter at him.
Yeah.
All I am is a representative of God.
Yeah.
You with me?
Yep.
But you've become bitter with God.
Yeah.
So you said, I'm going to take matters into my own hands and I'm going to go get what I want.
Yeah.
I'm going to go sin, I'm going to go fix it, I'm going to go do, you know what I mean? People have walked away from this ministry. You with me?
Yep.
And I believe some of them are going to come to their senses and they're going to come back.
Yeah.
But people have become sick.
Yeah.
Sister Lucy had a stroke.
Yeah.
Sister Mary, you know what I mean? Just physically, you know, the enemy has come against her. Her husband is not doing good at all. So that affects everything.
Yeah.
But when they go away, you got to understand they also take their finances.
Yeah.
So if you're used to getting so much a month from this one, from this one, from this one, from this one, and because of sickness or death has taken them out, you got to understand that's a big hit right there financially to this church.
Yeah.
And some of you that are in this church, you know what I mean, you've been, and I don't know if it's a spirit of fear, but you know you don't pay your tithes, you know you don't give, and even if you do it wrongly.
Yeah.
I don't want to do this, but I have to do this. But not be cursed with a curse. And no. You see that right there?
Yeah.
That's an evil spirit on your life.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hmm? You with me?
Yeah.
Because, and then you think it's that you're given to us, and you're not.
That's right.
Yeah, it doesn't have nothing to do with us. But we are the managers of this, and if you're a manager of any business or anything, you got to understand that it takes finances to run that thing.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yep.
And what happened was, you know what I mean, I don't know what it is, maybe a spirit of fear. And so you stop giving.
Yeah.
Hmm? Instead of giving your tithes, you give $10. $10 is good, but it's not obedience. It's a sacrifice.
Yeah.
Remember when we talked about King Saul, he says, don't you know that obedience is better than sacrifice? Because he said, I did what you told us to do. I did do what God wanted me to do. And he said, no, you didn't, Saul.
Yeah.
And that spirit, that attitude, that mindset, look, it took over.
Yep.
You with me?
Yep.
And it's evil. It's not from God.
Yeah.
And it affects your life.
Yeah.
Hmm?
Yep. That's
You
right.
with me?
Yep.
Huh?
That's right. Amen.
And you know what I mean? And you know what I mean? Like I said, even some of you that are in here, you should be serving, you should be helping, you should be doing this. And instead of saying, you know what, I don't know, you know what I mean? Well, what was Pastor trying to show me? What was he trying to tell me? What did he see in my life that he did sit me down?
Yeah.
That he did say, you know what, brother, you know, because if you want, you know, in our usher's manual, there's a whole list of things that I seek for too. See, because God don't just let anybody, because that's contrary to you know, the belief in Pueblo and the churches, God don't just let anybody serve.
Right.
God's constantly checking your heart.
Yeah.
Come on. God's constantly looking at why you do what you do. Not just you did what you did, but why you did what you did.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yep.
Because I love you, Lord. I
Amen.
love you, Lord.
Right, amen.
If you don't know how to teach, see, the thing is, brother, I don't know if you've ever been taught spiritual authority or armor bearer, but they tell you in the books, they say that true obedience, submission, does not start until there's conflict. We were laughing yesterday because Julio and Matt were doing something here, and they put these lights up. Lord Jesus. And Julio said something to Matt, like, Pastor said, first rebuke, I'm out of here, or something. He said, I mean, we laughed, you know what I mean, because they were just joking, but the thing is that true submission, you can say all day, I go to New Hope, I love my pastor, submitted to them, and this, but true submission doesn't even begin until your pastors correct you,
Yeah.
until your pastors tell you something.
Yeah.
And you notice that's when the anger comes?
Yeah.
That's when, like Saul, why? Who do they think they are?
Yeah.
I did do what God wanted me to do.
Yeah.
I don't know who they think they are. You know what I mean? I want to do it this way, or I was doing it good. Who says it? You know what I mean?
Yep.
And it all comes to the heart. He said, don't let that root of bitterness take hold of your heart. You with me?
That's right, amen.
And I've been praying, believe me, I've been praying and asking God, you know what I mean? And that's what I heard a minute ago, a spirit of bitterness. It said anger, right?
Yeah.
It said
Resentment.
anger, what?
Resentment.
And resentment. What does resentment mean? What does that mean to some of you? Huh?
That you don't like what somebody
Holding a
what you
grudge?
do.
Yeah.
What you don't like somebody's done to you? And I think in there it said that that somebody has treated you unfairly, right?
Yeah.
Huh?
Yes.
Taking offense. That somebody has treated you unfairly, but according to whose definition, according to whose, you with me?
Yeah.
See, an offense, even an offense, and I've taught on this before, you know, an offense is something that somebody has done, or at least I presume that they've done or said against me. I think they did.
Yeah.
Not necessarily something somebody did to you. It's
Yeah.
what I think they did to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And haven't you ever gotten in trouble, or, I mean, not in trouble, but just in an argument or stuff, because you assumed
Yeah.
somebody thought something, somebody said something?
Yeah.
You know, one of the greatest dividers that I know happened between me and my pastor when I was at Church on the Rock or Wellspring Harvest. Me and my pastor were so close, you know what I mean? I loved him, he loved me and stuff. But there came a time where he was busy and I was busy, and so we were working, but we were no communication, no fellowship. You got to understand, the kingdom of God thrives off of fellowship,
Yeah.
off of communication, off of closeness.
Yeah.
You with
Yeah.
me? The disciples, the three of them were close with Jesus because they were always around him. John loved him so much. The song we sing says, I want to lay upon your breast so I can hear your heartbeat.
Yeah.
That's pretty close. I don't want you that close. My wife comes in and some of you men are laying on my breast. She's going to be like, what is up with this? No. You with me? But some of them knew how to draw close. And the moment I drew away from my pastor, I started assuming things.
Yeah.
You with me?
Yeah.
And I started saying, well, you know, maybe, you know, I don't know. I guess you don't have time. I don't know. You know, I mean, all this stuff happened, and I'm, you know, it's driving a wedge. See, Satan loves to drive a wedge.
Yeah.
And if he can drive it deep enough, he can separate good friends.
Yeah.
You with me?
Yep.
That's his job. That's what he's good at. He's a master, you know, at what he does. He comes into churches and he drives wedges. Bitterness is a wedge. Fear is a wedge.
Yeah.
You with me? Assumption is a wedge.
Yeah. Yeah.
that he draws in there because he wants to destroy the church.
Yeah.
Not just our church, every church. Every church in this city's got problems.
Yeah.
Not one of them is perfect. If you say, well, I want to go to the other one because that's a better church than this and that, well, it might look better, but when you get inside there, you're going to realize, I should have stood where I was.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yep.
Amen? And it's all, you with me?
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? And you know, and that's the phrase I heard. Instead of getting bitter, they are better, they have become bitter. Hmm? And the thing is, you got to understand that at the same time, everything I'm telling you, I have to be careful of.
Yeah.
Because I'm just like you. You know, if I unbutton my shirt and open it, there's no Superman there. I'm flesh and blood just like you.
That's right. That's right.
You with me? And you know what I mean? I was a gangster. I was a drunkard. I was this and that. And God took this no good for nothing and put him as a pastor.
Amen.
And I've had to learn so many things the hard way. And even at that, I have to guard my heart and watch myself and realize, listen, you're not my enemy. The devil's my enemy. Hmm?
Yep, that's right.
I'm not your enemy.
That's right.
The devil's your enemy.
Amen.
You with me? And instead of getting bitter, we need to pray and ask God, God, help us get better.
Right.
God, we don't want to kill each other. We don't want to, you with me? We don't want to do that. We want to build our nation. We want to build our church. We want to become great in this city and save these people that are out there that are lost.
Right.
You with me?
Amen.
But we can't do it, you know what I mean? You can't be very effective out there with your physical life if you're dying of stage 4 cancer.
Yeah.
You can't be effective because you're constantly concerned with what the doctor's saying. Well, they're saying I'm going to die. They're saying I'm going to this. They're saying I'm going to that. They're saying I need to go here and I need to. So your life is consumed with what they're saying, not with what God's saying. You with me? And in a church, it's the same thing. The devil wants to get you distracted and concerned with everything and everyone else, and you're neglecting the body.
Yeah.
You're neglecting the things of God. You're neglecting it, and like I said, when there's distance, there's that assumption. Let me just say this, guys. Remember, or even some of you ladies did time, eh? Huh? You got ladies that have done time in the joint, not just the dudes. What happens when you get locked up? You get locked up, you're in there, you're one night, man, you're like, I miss my lady, man. Or even in the homes, right? Huh? I miss my lady. I wonder